Warning, the following video contains spoilers. If you don't want this episode spoiled for you, switch the video off now. Don't worry, Aaoyama. I know exactly how you feel. It's happened to the best of us. Believe me. Man, last summer was terrible. Can we get 10 likes and Fs in the chat for Aaoyama's trousers? And be sure to like, favourite, subscribe and do all the YouTube stuff that YouTube wants you to do, because YouTube's an incredibly scary place for small content creators. Support your local small content creator today. It does them a power of good. On to the actual review itself of this week's episode of My Hero Academia, and if I'm going to be perfectly honest with you, dear listener, this episode was rather disjointed. I know the whole remedial arc stuff is only supposed to be a short arc, though all things considered, this week's episode feel like it's combining two separate episodes and putting them all into one. The stuff with the kids should have been towards the end of last week's episode. Last week's episode should have been half an hour, then you would have got all that stuff done there and then. And the stuff with Aaoyama possibly being a spy or a voyeur could have been its own thing, but sadly not. We have both these things crammed together and it doesn't really work well. Honestly, it feels like I'm going to be reviewing two separate episodes with that in mind. The stuff with Todoroki and Bakugo and the rest of them doing their stuff with the children, it was really great and really fun. Had some really great character development for Bakugo. It shows him maturing and coming to his own as a hero. Hell, over the past few months, he and the rest of his classmates have been exposed to such amazingly scary and challenging things that, yeah, of course he's going to grow, but of course he's going to develop as a human being. And if he hadn't, and he'd still been pretty much the same as he was when this show started, that would have made for horribly bad writing. But we see him growing, we see his character arc developing before our very eyes, and that's really, really great. The stuff with them trying to win over the kids was fun, it was silly, it was cute, it was a nice little moment, which, yeah, granted, I would have liked something a bit more spectacular to happen, though that kind of ends up lending itself to the fact I feel that either this stuff should have come at towards the end of last week's episode, or alternatively it should have been the entire focus of this week's episode. The whole revelation of the whole quote doomsday thing and its echoes of childhood's end is really, really creepy and scary, but it's not really mulled over or really hung upon for too long. It's like, oh yeah, these kids might bring about the end of the world, or kids like them might bring about the end of the world, but don't worry, we're just here for shenanigans. It kind of feels a little bit tone deaf to have that sudden twist to it. It almost borders on being slightly edgelordish, but you know, I know some people like this show when it's dark and gritty, but personally, yeah, as much as interesting as that stuff can be, sometimes it does feel horribly out of place with this show. All that stuff, fine. All the stuff with the heroes learning to get their provisional license, fine, works for me. The stuff with Aaoyama being creepy and stuff was really interesting. I just felt that A, it should have been longer and we should have had more stuff dedicated to it, and B, I thought it was going to go somewhere. Not even the whole Aaoyama is a spy stuff, just something a little bit more substantial. Maybe he fancied Midoriya and that's why he was acting the way he was towards him. Or something. I mean, of course they're not going to reveal that he's secretly the mole that's been feeding information to the League of Villains all this time, but certainly not so soon, but still, just something else. It just makes it feel as though all the creepy setup and all the things with him looking suspicious don't really mean much. Because pretty much as soon as the creepy stuff was introduced, immediately after we find out it's nothing. It's just cheese. Sure, I mean, there is a hint of something darker, though. He did mention about his doctor, who in all likelihood will probably be the same doctor as Midoriya, and it has been long speculated that Midoriya's doctor is a secret arsehole, even though the trailer to the new movie confirms pretty much that he is. And also we find out that his quirk doesn't work for his body, so the whole theory about his quirk being switched when he was little or something like that by All For One is feeling a little bit more substantial. I mean, on the one hand, I kind of like the fact that a lot of fan theories seem to be coming true, but on the other hand, it kind of ends up meaning that this show is incredibly predictable, because if any random arsehole on the internet can predict what this writer's going to do 3 or so series down the line, I mean, it doesn't really bode well for the future of this show. Like, an offhand comment could end up turning out to be true. Like, a few weeks ago, I predicted that Sir Night Eye was going to die, and I don't read the manga, I don't know anything ahead of time, and lo and behold, that's what happened. So, you know, when some tin pot little YouTuber who's only just recently broke 50 subscribers after nearly 8 years can predict what you're doing, that's maybe not a good sign, but whatever, we're getting distracted now, so let us all dive headfirst into the overview and my overall feelings of the episode as a whole. Okay, so my overview, what do I think about the episode as a whole? And as a whole, I feel that this is a terribly wonky episode. One that feels like an amalgamation of two separate episodes smushed together for the sake of timing. The first 10 minutes of this episode should have been the final 10 minutes of the previous episode. This should have been an episode focused entirely around Midoriya trying to figure out what the hell is going on with Aaoyama and to solve that mystery. But it isn't. It's split in two with all the stuff that would be incredibly interesting, setting up a really interesting mystery that, in the end, maybe, yeah, it still goes the same way, and Aoyama's just like, you really inspire me, Midoriya, you make me feel as though I can do anything, and all that kind of stuff, which is cute and fun, and I like that stuff, but, you know, that feels as though it should come at the end of an episode that's been dedicated around that. You know, a little bit of misdirection, a few red herrings here and there. Maybe you have a scene where Midoriya starts to follow him, Aoyama, around during his free time to find out if he's secretly doing something no good, and maybe you see Aoyama going down a deep, dark alleyway and he starts to talk to some mysterious guy and everyone thinks, oh my god, he's selling secrets to some bad guys, but in reality it then ends up turning out that he's actually just... You know, he's just going to his cheese supplier. Maybe due to some inbuilt universe law stuff, you can't get French cheese so easily in Japan for reasons I don't know why. Maybe it's just too expensive, so he has to get it on the black market. You know, something like that would be funny and cute and have the kind of misdirection, red herring stuff that we kind of want with something like this because, you know, at the end of the day, I don't want this show to be predictable. Though, given the way that certain things are going, I'm worried that it is. But what about you, dear listener? What do you think about this week's episode of My Hero Academia? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Let me know in the comment section down below. And I'll get back to you shortly, either directly in the comments themselves or towards the end of a future video. Be sure to like, favourite, subscribe, and do all the YouTube stuff that YouTube wants you to do. Click that bell and do all that stuff, because YouTube wants you to do it. And if YouTube doesn't see these things happening, they will do something horrible to me in the not-too-distant future. I am almost certain of it. Thank you for listening, thank you, and goodbye!